They don't fear insults.
They don't fear confrontation.
They don't even fear being exposed. What truly hurts a narcissist is far quieter than that. Here's the first dark truth most people never realize until they're already drained.
A narcissist does not experience pain the way you do.
They don't feel it when you raise your voice.
They don't absorb it when you explain how deeply they hurt you.
They don't crumble when you finally say everything you've been holding in.
In fact, those moments often do the opposite.
Your emotions don't weaken them, they validate them. Every long message, every emotional breakdown,
Every attempt to be understood reassures them that they still matter,
that they still have access.
that they still control the emotional temperature of the room.
That's why you can pour out your soul and walk away feeling hollow,
While they walk away strangely calm.
That's why you replay conversations in your head at night, searching for clarity, while they sleep just fine. You think you're fighting for closure. They think they've won. So if you've ever wondered why nothing you say seems to land, why logic feels useless, why accountability somehow turns into blame, you're not weak. You're not foolish.
You're just participating in a game that was never designed for fairness.
Narcissists don't operate on connection.
They operate on control.
And control doesn't come from dominance. It comes from attention. Your attention is the currency. Your reactions are the reward. As long as they can pull something out of you, anger, sadness, confusion, they feel powerful. That's why arguing with a narcissist feels like screaming into a void that somehow echoes back your own voice. The harder you push, the more tired you become, while they remain untouched. But here's where the script flips. The thing that hurts a narcissist the most isn't revenge. It isn't insults. It isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming unreachable. Silence, to a grounded mind, feels neutral. To a narcissist, silence feels threatening. When you stop reacting, they don't interpret it as maturity. They interpret it as abandonment, because silence removes the mirror they rely on to see themselves reflected. And this is where reality becomes almost sarcastic. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment they start obsessing over you. They wonder what you're thinking. They replay old conversations. They imagine meanings where none exist. Because narcissists don't need love. They need relevance. When you stop orbiting them emotionally, they don't think. They've moved on. They think, why am I not the center anymore? That question eats at them. Another thing that deeply wounds a narcissist is boundaries. Not dramatic ones. Not emotional ultimatums. But quiet, boring, firm boundaries. The kind that don't come with speeches. The kind that don't ask for permission. The kind that don't need to be justified. A calm no. A delayed response. A refusal to engage. They expect guilt. They expect explanations. They expect you to defend yourself. When you don't, their sense of superiority begins to crack. Because manipulation requires access. And access requires consent. And when you remove consent, without anger, without fear, without apology, they feel powerless. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Narcissists are deeply threatened by emotional stability. Your calm feels disrespectful. Your indifference feels insulting. Your peace feels like proof that they were never as important as they imagined. They can tolerate being hated. Hatred still centers them. They can tolerate being criticized. Criticism still acknowledges them. But being unnecessary, that's intolerable. That's why moving on quietly hurts more than exposing them publicly. Exposure gives them attention. Silence gives them nothing. And nothing is the one thing they don't know how to survive.
There's a darker layer beneath all of this.
Narcissists build their identity through comparison. They need to feel above someone, smarter than someone, more important than someone. When you stop competing, when you stop trying to prove your worth, the hierarchy they live by collapses. You don't defeat them by winning. You defeat them by exiting the game. And this is where people struggle, because part of you wants justice. You want them to feel the damage they caused. You want acknowledgement. You want an apology that actually makes sense. But narcissists don't experience accountability as reflection. They experience it as attack. And when attacked, they don't self-correct, they self-protect. So when you stop seeking understanding from someone incapable of understanding, something unsettling happens. They feel exposed, without you saying a word. They start questioning how much you see. They wonder if you figured them out. They imagine conversations you never had. And because their sense of self depends on control. Losing access to your inner world feels like standing in a dark room with no mirrors. That's why they often return when you finally detach. Not because they miss you, but because they miss the version of themselves they could access through you. Your absence forces them to confront something they spend their entire life avoiding. Emptiness. And here's the final truth, the one most people never realize until they're free. The deepest psychological wound to a narcissist is watching you become emotionally unavailable, without becoming bitter,
Detached.
without becoming cold, happy, without needing to prove it. Because if you're thriving without them, it confirms their greatest fear, that they were never the source of your worth, that they were never special, that they were simply loud. So if you ever feel tempted to hurt a narcissist the loud way, remember this. The most devastating response isn't rage.
It isn't revenge.
It isn't winning the argument. It's peace. A peace so genuine they can't mock it. A silence so complete they can't control it. A life so full they're no longer invited into. And that hurts more than they will ever admit. You don't need to prove anything to someone who feeds on your reaction. Walk away quietly and let your peace say everything they never could.